Okay, in this video I'm going to finish up problem 5 and just talk about part B, problem 5. So we're assuming that the income, this is income elasticity of demand for good Y, so this is a completely different good. So you got to be very careful when you read these, because when I first saw this, I just assumed they were talking about the good up here, but no, this is a completely different good Y that they're not showing a graph for at all. They're just asking you to think about good Y with an income elasticity of -2. So relatively inelastic because it's, no, I'm sorry, I said that opposite. Elastic, because it's over 1. The absolute value is over 1, so this is a good with an income elasticity that is relatively elastic, but it's also negative. So that's what, and this is important when we think about income elasticity. So using a correctly labeled graph of the market for good Y, show the effect of a significant increase in income on the equilibrium price of good Y in the short run. So what we're really asking here is if the income elasticity of a demand is negative, which way are we going to shift the demand? Is it going to shift to the left or is it going to shift to the right? So that's what we're really trying to find out here. So in order to find this out, we need to know something about the income elasticity of the demand. So in your study guide, I actually pulled this right from one of the study guides that I sent you guys. There is a very nice chart that talks about how to calculate the income elasticity of demand, which is basically the change in the percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in income. So let me grab one of these down here real quick. So now we don't know what those are. All we know though, we know that it's -2, so we know it's negative. So now we go down here and we say, okay, if we can use the income elasticity of demand to determine whether a good is normal or inferior. Now, why is that important for a question or a problem? Well, if a good is normal, if it's a normal good, then we assume that if your income goes up, you buy more of it. You buy more of a normal good. If a good is an inferior good, then we assume that if your income goes up, you buy less of it. So I was talking to my wife the other day about beanie weenies, and she says, "What are beanie weenies?" And I said, "Well, it's like hot dogs and baked beans, and they're cheap. And when you're in college and you're poor, you tend to buy a lot of cheap food, things like beanie weenies, and so we can call that an inferior good because as soon as you get out of college and you get a real job, you buy something other than or something that's a little bit higher quality than beanie weenies. Okay, so we can call that's one example of an inferior good that we would buy less of if our income went up. So now, what we know from the problem is that income elasticity is negative. So if we know that, then we can jump back down here and we can say, okay, if the ratio has different signs, in other words, if they're moving in different directions, either way, right? Then that tells us that the income elasticity of demand is less than 0 or negative. So we know that we're in this situation right here. So we know that it is an inferior good. Okay, so since we know that, and I've also got this graph right down here, which is basically says the same thing. If it's a negative, then they're moving in the opposite directions. The quantity demanded and price are moving. Not price, quantity demanded and income are moving in opposite directions. That means they're inferior goods. So we know they're inferior because of this right here, and we jump down here, we know that they're moving in opposite directions. In other words, as quantity demanded, as income goes up, quantity demand is going to go down. As income goes down, quantity demand is going to go up. So jump back up here again and look at our problem. We can see that it's telling us that income is significantly increasing, so it's going up. So if income is going up, that means quantity demanded is going down because of the negative sign here, less than 0. The elasticity of demand is less than 0 or negative. So we know that demand is going down. So that means when we draw our graph, we're going to show a leftward shift in the demand because it's going down. At every quantity, the demand is going to be less. I mean, at every price, the quantity of demand is going to be less. So we have a shift, a left and down of the demand curve. So you want to draw your graph something like this right here. But I know it's easy just to show you the graph, but I really want you to understand these relationships because the question that you get on the exam is not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same question. But as long as you understand these relationships between whether the income elasticity of demand is a negative, positive, moving in the same direction, moving in different directions, and that's going to tell you whether the goods are substitutes or complementary in terms of cross price. So this is also, this chart right here shows you cross price elasticity and income elasticity. So you need to be very, very fluent with all of these in terms of determining if goods are substitutes or complementary or normal or inferior. Okay, I think that about does it for problem 5.